Hi YouTube, welcome back to another video from Wtf Rc Cars. Still virused up, but we're soldering on. So, we've got the tiny little 6mm switches arrived. So we're going to attempt to try and fit this into the Noble Pro that somehow got destroyed. And looks like the position of the pins is correct. So we've just got to hope that it's not actually damaged the circuit board too much. So I can get these into shape, into position, and then I'm going to have to try and tack the solder pads down and just hope that it's not damaged the board to the point where the solder joints can't hold. But it does look like it's going to be a really good fit, which is good. So let's crack on getting this in position and get it soldered. Right, not really sure how much you're going to be able to see with this, but so it does look like there's a bit of damage to the actual solder pads. So I can see some slight damage, but hopefully there's still enough left for us to make the contact. So it looks like successfully made electrical contact. Just trying to build a little bit up on the sides here to hopefully give it a bit of strength. Possibly make it a little bit stronger than it was to start with, but I obviously don't want to apply too much heat because then we'll end up with a melted switch, which will not be any good for us. Now it does feel like it's on there nice and sturdy, so let's see if we get in. So I can definitely see resistance from the actual circuit board. And the switch is still functioning. If you ever want to check one that you're doing yourself, I'm struggling to get it in place and see it on camera. So you see we go dead short and then we get resistance back. So if you ever want to try this repair yourself, when I press the button it goes dead short, when I let it go we've got as resistance of the actual board back. So now we need to reassemble it. I'm just going to move the soldering iron out of the way because them things stay hot for a while. So let's see what we've got. Well, we're definitely going to have a case, and this is the switch. I don't know if you can see that at all, but it's all marked up. I'm kind of struggling to see which way round the power logo is on it, but this should be fitted inside here. Then you've got two little tabs that it should sit down on, but it had been forced all the way in and off them. So it's a little bit clearer now. You can see where something's been jabbed into it. Always a lot more difficult when you don't actually know how something's been broken. But if you slide the screen in, then lift it up from the back, so put a little bit of pressure on back, you can then slide in the top and bottom. And once we've got them in place, we should be able to, yeah, you can easily feel the click from the button. So let's have a look. We've got the antenna wire that I'm not entirely happy about, but I don't think anything actually turns through there looking at it. No, it moves lower down. That's just where the screw is in the centre, so that should be absolutely fine. So next thing we're going to need to do is get our screws back in here. And you don't need to go crazy tight with these, they're just quite fine headed screws, and they're just going into soft plastic through the aluminium. I'll have to see if I can remember where all these bits go, because it's been a while since I stripped this one. So we got the little snap connector. That, if you wonder which way round this goes, it has to stick out of here, and then when that's in place it needs to face down. So we're going to be popping this side in first. And you can tell when they're in position because they just click. So let's see how that locates in. So I can see the little marks on the bottom where the rubbers have been sat in position. So it's quite easy to work out where that's come from. Then we've got to line this little snap connector up. See if I can get this to go back in. Trying to keep as much of this on camera for you, but it's not easy. So that's got his little snap connector in. You can see the adjustment mechanism that moves the trigger forward and backwards. So once we've got all that on, we should now be able to put the battery in. And while I think on, somebody did ask me what is the actual dimensions of these, because they're 18650 batteries. So they're 18mm by, I've got to be careful not to short this out, by 650. Like I've said to people, 18650 is actually the standard. The only time you'll find any of these different is when they're protected cells and they have a little circuit in top. But they go in that way. But as you see, there's quite a lot of, they're quite a generous battery holder in these. So let's see if it now powers up.
Welcome to Noble.
Yep. So we have steering and throttle. We've got some mixing set up on this. So looks like
Shutting down.
first impressions are it's a successful fix, but we'll not celebrate just yet because we've got to get it all back together. So when you pop these back together, you just have to carefully work your way around it, and you do have this little rubber in the front that likes to slide down, so make sure you get that into position. So next we've got the 2 screws for that, and then them, and then a bunch of these. So we're going to go with the, I believe these are 1.5mm. There's a whole bunch of them. So I'm just going to work my way around dropping these in. Doesn't really matter which order. And to be totally honest, this was an easier fix than I thought it might be. It does help having a proper solder station rather than either a gigantic tipped soldering iron to try and work with, or a soldering iron with the end that's far too thin, because then it doesn't transfer enough heat because it instantly goes cold when you touch it. And as soon as it does that, you end up holding the soldering iron on for way too long, and you can possibly damage the switch. Doesn't really matter once you're taking it off, because you're not going to be removing a good switch anyway, so it's already dead. But certainly for soldering the new one on, and you don't want to be transferring way too much heat into the actual circuit board itself, because that's definitely going to cause you problems. Right, so far so good. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, then we can just pop this back into place, and you've got like 2 little flats on what you can line up, so shouldn't be too difficult to get this back on if I can manage to hold it. So that's got his little variable pop back on. You can just check, make sure everything's still turning and moving as it should. Right, next we've got the screws in the bottom, and these are the ones with the cross head and the coarse sort of thread on them, and you've got 2 of these. Again, I apologise for the coughing, but I've been COVIDed, so not particularly having a fun time at the minute. That's got that screw and that screw back in. Then if you throw the base plate on, what you'll find with these is they only actually fit one way. So if you try and line it up and it's wrong, you'll see it doesn't actually line up with how the controller would be sat. Let's see if I can show you. So you see the bottom doesn't line up, so all you have to do is flip them over, and then you'll find that it'll line up with the controller sat flat, and then you know you're putting them on the right way round. So if you just get them back into position, and then these screws are the crosshead ones with the really fine thread. And like with all the really fine thread screws, you don't want to over tighten these. They're not trying to crush the controller together or strip threads. Or I suppose strip the head off the screw with small screws like this. It's always a possibility. So that's all them back on. Then we've got the rubber for the grip, and this is usually better off getting that little tag in the top first and then kind of work your way around it. Then you can just push these in. These always go on way easier than they come off. You feel like you're going to rip them apart when you start sliding them off. So, should be able to get his base battery on. Is there any charge in it? Doesn't look like it. It looks like base battery's completely flat. That's never a good thing to do because they're LiPo. So if we slide that back on, then we get the bottom in position. These are a bit of a tight fit, but they do go on. Just got to try and get it so it's level, and then it pushes up. And then we should have 2 remaining screws. And these just screw up through the phone holder bracket. And if anybody's got any theories as to how that switch managed to get damaged, I'd love to hear it comments below, because I've had the thing apart and I can't tell you how it happened. The only thing I can see is that there's an awful lot of marks on the power button, and to me that just looks like somebody's jabbed at it until it's broken off inside, which I'm not really sure why you'd do that, but as I say, not my job to work out how things get broke, I just fix them. So, one fully functioning controller. Let's wrap this one up. Right, so there we have it. All his dials are working and his mixing, whatever he's got set up, and his screen's all functioning. And nice gentle touch on power button, turns it off. Nice gentle touch on power button. And we power back up. Not sure what's happened with this. I'll try and put it on charge, see if I can bring it back for him, but it's not even lighting up. One of the best tips I can give you with any controller that uses LiPos, or any LiPos in general, just never ever let them run all the way flat and leave them. It's a surefire way of killing your LiPos. But very successful. I shall put the link to the little button switches in the description of the video. I'll pop a link to the Noble Pro for UK and abroad, as I always do, in description. And hopefully you guys find this as interesting as I did. I love working on electronics, especially if I can make a video out of it and help somebody out that might be in the same problem. If you are, stop jabbing your controller with a screwdriver. If you do get problems with this, it's easier to change that button before you break it, rather than smash your button to pieces and scratch all your controller. You really shouldn't have to put much pressure on these at all. Shutting down. But thanks again for watching WTF RC Cars. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe, share to friends and family, hit the notification bell. I'll catch you guys again in the next one.